Welcome to this video. This is actually a joint book review. For the first time on this channel I'm reviewing two books in one video, and that's because it's from the same author, Luis de Miranda. The first one, Philosophical Health, Thinking as a Way of Healing. It is edited by Luis de Miranda, and he's also a big contributor to this book. But there are other contributors in this book about philosophical health. What is that? We'll come into that a bit later. The other book is also called Philosophical Health, A Practical Introduction. I don't have the physical book, only a PDF book, so here it is. And this book here is Luis de Miranda. He's a sole author of that book, but we'll get into each of the books in this joint book review video. So let's start with the first one. Or maybe, actually, let's start. What is a philosophical health? Why is this even interesting? Well, I myself is what you can call a philosophical counselor. I use philosophy in a practical way to help others. You could also call it philosophical coaching. Somebody has called it that. Luis de Miranda, he would call it inspire to get this philosophical health, because this is what it's all about, using philosophy to be healthy. You know, you can have a healthy body, but you can also have a healthy mind, and it pretty much really comes down to having a healthy mind, right? If you don't have a healthy mind, then it can maybe be difficult to also get a healthy body and so on. So it's kind of important, this philosophical health, for philosophical counselors, practitioners like myself, but also like Luis de Miranda and other contributors in this first book, because there's a lot of contributors in this book. And they're not all, but most of them are philosophical counselors themselves, and use psychology, philosophy, and so forth in order to help people. It's kind of like using philosophy as a kind of a therapy to get this mental health. So I think it's a quite important book, and the other book by Luis de Miranda is also very important because it's not that known everywhere, this idea of going to a philosophical counselor, to going to a philosopher with problems in your life, mental problems. You may be used to going to a life coach or a psychologist or a psychiatrist or something like that, or see the doctor. But this book helps in order for you to understand why it's important to have also a philosophical health. You can also talk about psychological health, physical health, but there is something that's called philosophical health, and I agree with the authors, and especially Luis de Miranda, that you can get a philosophical healthy mindset. And what is that? Well, first of all, I recommend you reading this book. That's why I'm doing this book review. Go into this book and get a grip on what philosophical health is. Let's go a bit into the contents of this philosophical health, thinking as a way of healing. Hear that subtitle? Thinking as a way of healing. to think yourself well. That's kind of maybe a strange thing in modern days to think about, but it goes way back to ancient Greek philosophy that you can use. You actually use philosophy in a practical way as a way of living. And it's something that's forgotten. Philosophy has become very, very much academic. Philosophy from Greek also means the love of wisdom. So philosophical health and thinking as a way of healing is also using wisdom to be happy, to get what the Greeks call eudaimonia, which means happiness. You can also use this wisdom, the love of wisdom, to get ataraxia. Ataraxia is what the Greek, it's a Greek word meaning peace of mind. That's the self. That's also an ancient Greek thing. In part 1 of this book with 5 chapters from 5 different contributors. That goes in what the self means, what it means to have a self, and knowing thyself. This is also this ancient Greek philosophy, one of the first thing ever written at the Oracle of Delphi. Know thyself. It's all written, know thyself. That's not easy to do, but that's something that can come forth in this counseling, philosophical counseling session. The other thing is how to, that's part 2 in this book. Part 2, the others, because we are others, right? You're not just yourself, there's other people around, and you have to relate to them, and there's something that happens in that relationship between you and others. And that's what these contributors of part 2 of this book comes into. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 contributors, different contributors. And one of them is Luis de Miranda here at the end. And that's about, this part is about the others, your relationship with other people, which is as equal as important as also knowing yourself. That's knowing that there are other people around that you're in relations to. You cannot pull yourself out of the equation of other people. You are, well, it's like Aristotle said, we are social animals, we are political animals. He's right about that. So, and then this is the last part of the book, which is the world. You cannot see it here, maybe, but the world. Part 3 is about the world, and that's also different contributors to this part 3. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, also 6 contributors to this about the world, and one of them is also Luis de Miranda, editor of this book. So, and they all go into your relationship with the world around you, and that's the bigger picture, maybe the political system, the political society, the milieu you're in, and so forth. It's all about how what is possible in the world, and what is the world, and how. What are your thoughts about it? There's as many things in this part 3. The last thing here in the contents is an epilogue. And that epilogue is also written by Luis de Miranda, where he comes into his specialized, self-developed philosophical counseling method, which is called the SMILE method. SMILE, PH, and it is very academically put forward in the epilogue of this book. This is a very interesting method that he uses. I also have to say here that my last video was a book talk with Luis de Miranda about these books and about his counseling method and about philosophical health. So you can check that out. There will be a link in the description, also a link up in the cards here, and a link at the end of the video. So if you haven't seen or heard that book talk, you should. Now I want to go into a specific chapter from the book, part 3 of the book about the world, part 3 about the world. It's called The Professionalization and Philosophical Ill Health, Maladies and Counsels. It is written by Matthew Sharp and Eli Kramer, and I think it's a very, very interesting chapter, because it deals with the kind of the pitfalls of philosophy or a philosophical endeavors. When you go into philosophy, you start thinking a lot and you practice, try to practice philosophy. There are maladies and pitfalls you can fall into, maybe dictated by the society, by politics, the way we generally view academic philosophy and so forth. So it's a very interesting chapter about these maladies, you can say evils, that we can fall into when philosophical health becomes an ill health. Listen to this. Traditions which have a strong commitment to holistic philosophical health, it is all too easy to find hypocrites more interested in the discourse on their professed values than any committed practice to enact them. While all of us have our hypocritical moments across professional philosophy, we find many all too dazzled by their own webs of thought, without questioning whether they catch anything of worth within them. As Pierre Hidot writes of the ancients, all schools denounce the risk taken by philosophers who imagine that their philosophical discourse can be sufficient to itself without being in accord with philosophical life. They constantly attack those who, to use the term of the Platonist Polemo, seek to be admired for their skill at syllogistic arguing, but contradict themselves in the conduct of their lives. In other words, of an Epicurean saying, they develop empty discourses. According to the Stoic Epictetus, they talk about the art of living like human beings, instead of living like human beings themselves. And as Seneca put it, they turn to love of wisdom, philosophia, into love of words, philologia. Traditionally, people who develop an apparently philosophical discourse without trying to live their lives in accordance with their discourse and without their discourse emanating from their life experience were called sophists. There's only one part of this, these maladies you can fall into, but it's an interesting part that comes forth here in the quote I just read out loud, that you can be mesmerized by your own philosophical thinking, that you just stay there. You're not unable to put them into practice, so to speak. That you're too much in your head, thinking without doing. That it's also like Karl Marx. For me, it's also the important thing that Karl Marx wrote, that one can think about life, but the big thing is doing something. You can think about the world, but you have to change the world. You have to do something. The philosophical way of living, it's practical. it shall not only be in the head, you have to do something with this philosophy. You have to live in accordance with it. Otherwise you talk empty words. So you have to walk the talk or walk the thinking, so to speak. You have to have a healthy mind, but also do it bodily out there in the world, so to speak. So this is an interesting thing about the pitfalls of philosophy, especially when you go into trying to know thyself. And also as a counselor, when you start counseling, that you do not fall in love with your own voice and your own thinking when you are in a session with a counselee, that try to listen on a deeper level to and have a interactual genuine philosophical conversation with the counselee, and not just fall in love with your own philosophical way of thinking. It also comes into the problem with philosophy at the universities that I really agree with, that it's so professionalized. Philosophers written for others philosophers, for a small community. It's about getting approval and likes on your academic works in order to exist. There's a competition in the university. It's all a public management in the university. Who's best? Who writes the most papers? You write papers in order to stay alive at the university. So true, genuine philosophical practice and philosophical thinking is in danger of getting lost at the university. So that's also an issue I agree with. But you can read the book, highly recommendable book, Thinking as a Way of Healing, especially if you want a really in-depth, maybe more academic work about philosophical counseling and philosophical health. But let's get into the next book. The next book is also called Philosophical Health, A Practical Introduction. This is solely written by Luis de Miranda, who as I mentioned earlier, had a book talk with. Luis de Miranda is a philosopher at the universities, but he's also a practitioner, a philosophical counselor who has developed his own method of philosophical counseling, which is called the SMILE PH, the SMILE philosophical method. And interestingly enough, his book, when you go into the contents of this philosophical health, A Practical Introduction, the contents of this book is it's divided. The chapters are divided like his philosophical method. It's called the same thing you get when you get into the 5 or 6 steps in this philosophical method. The 5 steps. You have the bodily sense, that you have to have a sense of of being embodied in the world. You are in the world, embodied. You're not separate. Your mind is not separate from your body or separate from the world. You are in the world as with your body. And there's the next chapter is the sense of self. Know thyself, of course. But then there's also sense of belonging, and again it has to do with other people, the others, which was a section part of the other book about philosophical health, is the others. Then there's a chapter on the sense of the possible. What is possible? When you get into philosophical health and philosophical mental health, what is possible for you with your thoughts, with your healthy mind? What is possible out in the world with philosophy? So that's also an interesting part. Then chapter 5, the sense of purpose. also probably call it the sense of meaning, that it's the ancient thing about what is philosophy about was the meaning of life, the purpose of life, the purpose of you, the purpose of your life, the meaning of your life. So philosophy can help to get a sense of purpose. The last thing here, the last chapter, is the philosophical sense. Gets more into that about having a philosophical sense of it all, putting all these senses together, and what does that say? I'm not going to get into each of these things. You should read the book. That's my recommendation. But this is just good to get an overview what to expect from this book. There's also an epilogue here, 5 principles of philosophical practice. But the idea with this philosophical health, a practical introduction, is a way into Luis de Miranda's mind and how he views this idea of philosophical health and how to achieve it, and why it's important to equip yourself with also philosophical health. So it's a way into this. So it's a lot more practical introduction than this more academic work with different contributors about this philosophical health, thinking as a way of healing. Luis de Miranda's own book here is much more, I would call it more personal, philosophical, where you really get to philosophize with Luis de Miranda. If you want a more easy read, a more personalized, where you can sit and read and philosophize yourself with it and start thinking about the idea of philosophical health for yourself, you should read the practical introduction. I think maybe I most enjoyed that one because I myself is very much in depth with this philosophical practitioner. There's a lot of books out there also about philosophical counseling, so I'm kind of used to it. Or while I was doing these book reviews, I wanted also to know more about Luis de Miranda's philosophy, and that really comes forth here in the practical introduction. So for me, I enjoyed more that, especially before I had the chance to talk to him in this book talk we had, that you can watch after this video. So my conclusion here is to read them both, but if you really have to choose one, you choose it for different reasons. If you want a more personalized book that you maybe get more immersed in, you should read the practical introduction. While if you want a more laid-back overview of this philosophical health and the idea of philosophical counseling and what you can, the way it's practiced, the different approaches to it, you should read this one. That's my recommendation from this, but and there are links in the description for where you can buy both of these books. I hope you enjoyed this book review, joint book reviews, and I hope to see you in the next video.